Japan loves its schoolgirls. But you know what? I think there's a perfectly reasonable explanation why that is. First off, let's acknowledge that the image of the schoolgirl in Japan is completely different than the image that we view it here in America. Here, we tend to think Catholic schoolgirl. We think rules and conformity, and then we think about breaking those rules either by rebellion or sneaking out or being naughty. In Japan, however, I believe the schoolgirl is more about nostalgia, about a time in your life when you had less responsibilities, you had less social pressures, and the world was completely open to you. Now, a lot of these themes I'm going to talk about come from things that I've viewed in my personal experience, and from a book called Japanese Schoolgirl Confidential. I read the book about 5 years ago, and it talks a lot about the influences the schoolgirl had in Japan, ranging from fashion to the popularization of technology, like the cell phone. It's a fascinating read, and I definitely recommend it to anyone interested in furthering their pursuit of the subject. Check it out. It's even written by Kotaku's own Brian Ashcraft. So back to the topic. So let's say you're a guy who grew up in Japan. You went to school in Japan. At one time in your life, you were probably in love with a schoolgirl. You were in class, sitting there, staring across the room at the one girl you liked. Maybe you never got the chance to tell her that you liked her because you were young and you lacked the courage. I don't know. But it's not a far stretch that years down the line, you see girls in school uniforms and it evokes strong memories about that time in your life. Maybe fondness, maybe regret. But after all, Japan is a country very strongly rooted in tradition, in culture, and for better or for worse, nostalgia. And I think that's one of the reasons why school uniforms are chosen as a default outfit for idols. Not because of the short skirts, or maybe because of some misguided sexual fantasy, but because it's instantly recognizable. I mean, if a new group of idols walked on stage in outfits like, say, these, the majority of people are going to be confused about the concept. But you put a group of girls, some of which are past the age of high school, mind you, in school uniforms, and then you have them sing about young love and the awkwardness of that time, and I think you instantly relate to 90% of the audience. Now, let's take it from the other perspective. Let's say you're a female, and you went to school in Japan. You were a schoolgirl. You used to wake up every morning and put on your uniform. You'd find a way to maybe personalize it without breaking dress code. Maybe you'd wear your hair a certain way, or you'd wear your socks differently. Then you'd walk to school in your uniform. You'd attend class in your uniform. You'd hang out with your friends after school in your uniform. There was nothing strange about it. It was just the way of life. And that's probably why there's much more of a disgust factor here in America with school uniforms. Because there's that unfamiliarity. You watch anime or you read manga and you see the stuff where they're running around in uniforms. That's not an exaggeration. That's how it is. That's normal everyday life in Japan. So I've been on the street where just this mob of schoolgirls walks by. And I'm like this one tree sticking out of this river of youth. I swear, it was one of the most surreal things I've ever experienced. All I could hear were girls' voices chattering and laughing away without a care in the world. It was undeniably youth. Youth that you can only appreciate when you don't have it anymore. And I literally felt younger just by standing in the middle of it. And I think that's another reason why the schoolgirl is, let's call it, revered. Because it's no secret that people fear getting older. There's a point in everyone's life where they begin to yearn to be young again, or fight the aging process. I hear people talking about potential and lost opportunity. Maybe some of you guys aren't old enough to have gone through this, but there's been times where I've said to myself, man, if I knew then what I know now, if I could combine my then youth with my experience and confidence now, I'd be unstoppable. And it's one of life's biggest ironies. that you can have one but not the other. Youth or experience. And you probably won't realize it until after the fact. I think that's a powerful feeling. Not so much about the regret, but maybe more of the what if. And maybe that's why certain people get into idols. Because they have the youth, they have the energy, they have the potential, but they also have the inexperience. And so how can we pass along our knowledge or maybe give them the support that they need? Because we know that this is all fleeting. And then somehow, do we live vicariously through them? Are we young by association? Does their success somehow make up for the mistakes we made and the opportunities that we wasted? Again, I don't know, and I'm still trying to figure that out. And everyone is different, so I don't think everybody has the same reasons. So try to think about one thing that would symbolize your teenage years, that would encompass everything you experienced during that time. Coming from Texas, I could probably come up with something similar to other Texans, like football or maybe homecoming. But I don't think that would hold true throughout the rest of America. Maybe it's the same in your state or in your country. But I do know that in Japan, there aren't many things that are as culturally symbolic or universally recognized and positively viewed as the schoolgirl. And that's why Japan is in love with them. Next week, I answer the question, do idols date?